Welcome to Commander Banter, and let's get right in here. We're talking Maelstrom Wanderer, the Teamer General, 1 green, 1 red, 1 blue, 5 others, 8 converted mana cost for a 7/5 elemental legend. He gives all your creatures haste, and he cascades twice. And that means you get to exile cards from the top of your library until you hit something that costs 1 less, or even more, and then you put it into play. You take all the rest of the cards that you exiled, put them in the bottom of the library at random order, and then you cascade again. So you want to make sure to abuse large casting costs for maximum damage. How do we do this? Well, to be quite honest, there's a lot of things you can cast out of this deck for free. Avenger of Zendikar is an excellent inclusion, for example. I also like to run Dragonlord Atarka. Because, 5 damage is 5 damage. Can't sneeze at that. You could run Frost Titan and make them have to work a little harder to get you. You could try Inferno Titan. Free damage is free damage. You can't use Prime Time, though. That sucks. Palinchron you can use. It costs 7, so it's less than Maelstrom Wanderer. It'll also untap 7 lands and bounces back to your hand. Pathbreaker Ibex is like a finisher. You can't get Crater Hoof with Maelstrom Wanderer, but you can get Pathbreaker. Wormcoil Engine is just a solid card that costs less than Maelstrom Wanderer, really. You can also get Planeswalkers. Chandra, Firecaller. Does a lot of things you want this deck to do. It's nice to play her for free. Huntsmaster of the Fells. He can work off a Cascade. He's also really effective if you blink. Bloodbraid Elf. If you're going to run Cascade stuff, why not run more Cascade stuff? Bloodbraid Elf is a great Cascade stuff. Ethereum Horn Sorcerer is like recurable Cascade stuff that costs 6, so that's good. Shardless Agent, it's a classic in any kind of Cascade staple. You can get a few things with it. You may want to just try and hardcast things like Altered Ego, though. Make copies of things that are bigger than their things. Acidic Slime, if you cascade off that, you can blow things up. You can also bounce this and blow things up. Bouncing is a backup theme. Worldbreaker you cannot bounce. Can cast it, though, and then you can recur it. Terastodon, can't get him with the Maelstrom Wanderer. Can hardcast him, though. Chaos Warp, tuck that general. Maybe it won't come back. Beast Within, anything dies. They get a 3/3. You really don't care, though. Cyclonic Rift, if they get some really annoying things out by the time you got 7 mana, send it all away. Evacuation, send it all away. This also helps you because you can play those things with end of the battlefield effects. Crows and Grip will get rid of those really pesky artifact or enchantments at a speed that they're not allowed to deal with it. Now, Vinral's Disc is a little slower, but it'll kill everything that's going to give you a headache. Trigon Predator is a solid little creature that is recurable disenchant on a stick. You might want to ramp into some of your bigger things. I might suggest starting small with Birds of Paradise. Traverse the Ulvenwald can get you a land. Later on, it can get you either a land or a creature. Chromatic Lantern will fix your mana. You are going to need your mana fixed. So, you might want to try a Commander Sphere as well, because it'll fix your mana, and later when you don't need it, you can sack it for a card. Sol Ring is an auto-include in most EDH decks. There's a few that you don't really need it, but this one you really do. Mana Vault is another wonderful, not super expensive way to get 3 mana for 1 mana. Expedition Map, go get any land you want. And there's a large variety of lands in this deck. Not with like crazy effects, but they're there. Worn Power Stone, just another recurable mana ramp rock. You could consider Hedron Archive. Gilded Lotus, 3 mana of any color in a 3-color deck. Yeah, okay, I'll take that. Cryptolith Rite, you have a lot of creatures. You could also turn them into mana, which can be pretty interesting when all your stuff has haste. Cultivate is a classic, a staple, you might say. Just go get 2 basics, 1 in the battlefield, 1 in your hand. Explosive Vegetation, go get 2 basics and just put them on the battlefield tapped instead, if that's more your game. You might also, if you can find it, get a Skyshroud Claim, because you can get 2 forest cards, and any dual land typing with forest also counts. This is one I include in almost every green deck with ramp. It's just that good. Courser of Crew Fix. This will help keep you alive. It will show your opponent what's on the top of your library, but you're not really worried about that. Oracle of Mildia will do the same thing, but with the additional effect of playing additional land on each of your turns. Plasm Capture is Tricksy mana ramp, which can stop something really bad. Sakura-Tribe Elder, it's ramp. It's also a chump blocker if you need one of those, which can be cool. Speaking of chump blockers, Solemn Simulacrum. Get your land and draw your card. Get in the way of that. Garrick Wildspeaker. It untaps 2 lands, it makes creatures, and it gives an overrun effect if you need it. Now, maybe you want to bounce some of your cards, like some of the ones I went over earlier. Crystal Shard for 1 mana, you can bounce stuff. Erratic Portal does the same thing for 1 mana. Remember, if you're targeting your own things, you don't have to pay that. Right of Application. When you get the thing you want out there enough times, why not clone it 5 times before you bounce it back to your hand? Here's a good target. Thragtusk. 5 life when it comes in, leaves you a 3/3 green beast when it goes out. Deadeye Navigator you knew would be in this deck. It has to be in this deck. The deck has so much blink, you'd be insane not to use it. Mina and Den Wildborn, additional land on each of your turns, gives your dudes trample if you want to put a land back in your hand. Prime Speaker Zagana, however, when there's a big dude on the battlefield, will draw you amazing amounts of cards. Birthing Pod is a wonderful little trick, banned in Modern. You can just use this to go get what you want. Rhystic Study. You will be amazed when you see how many people will let you draw cards off this. Shaman of the Great Hunt. Tamer colors, big creatures, lots of card draw. This is good. Sylvan Library, another recent reprint in Eternal Masters, and it is excellent for setting up the top of your deck for a good Maelstrom Wanderer hit. Regrowth for any important cards that you want back in your hand that happen to end up in the graveyard when you didn't want them to. Eternal Witness. It's another regrowth. Reclaim is fun when you're about to play a Maelstrom Wanderer and there's a juicy target in your graveyard. Seasons Past will get you many different cards back, and then puts itself back in your library. Great value. Scroll Rack. Another wonderful card to help you set up the top of your library for that big Maelstrom Wanderer. Sensei's Divining Top, another Eternal Masters reprint, another way to set up your library. Now, Maelstrom Wanderer has haste, but that might not stop you from wanting to put in Lightning Greaves to protect him. You could also consider Swiftfoot Boots. Sword of the Animist is a weird inclusion, some people might think, but you can get all the basics out of your library real quick with it. Command Tower. You want this for your mana fixing. There's a lot of mana fixing in these lands. How about City of Brass? You got 3 colors. This will make any of them. You should like that, I would think. Could consider Mana Confluence as well, especially if you happen to get that Expedition version. Frontier Bivouac. Makes all the colors you need. Does come into play tap, but it makes all the colors that you need. Reflecting Pool. If you have something that makes any kind of mana, you have another one. Meteor Crater. This is one I don't see a whole lot of, but with all your permanents, you can make mana. You could get your fetches in here if you got the money, get yourself a Misty Rainforest. Could also consider the other expensive one, Scalding Tarn. If you have the Expedition ones, I'd just sell them and make the money. That's me. Don't forget Wooded Foothills. This one's considerably cheaper for you. Won't break the bank too much to get a hold of one of these. Evolving Wilds. If you can't get some of those fetches, consider adding Terramorphic Expanse to this pile. Breeding Pool. Come on. You gotta run your Shocklands. Forest Island. Breeding Pool. You need your Mountain Forest. You're gonna want to get yourself Stomping Ground. Because again, Shocklands. 2 life isn't that much in EDH. So also run a Steam Vents. This way if you run a land that, or a fetch that targets a specific land, you can get it. Hinterland Harbor. Now, when you have a forest or island into play, you can play these untapped. It becomes a dual land just about. You could throw in a Rootbound Crag, so you can get the red and the green, and you can also consider Sulphur Falls for the blue and the red. All of them are great value. Recent printing, Game Trail. You could also consider cards like Cinderglade in this spot. Maybe you have the Painlands. Well, there's Carpulsion Forest, which is harder to get, Shivan Reef, and Yavimaya Coast. The Shivan Reef and Yavimaya Coast shouldn't cost you too much to get a hold of. Carpulsion Forest, not sure. Also run your temples. The scry is amazing when you want to go off on Maelstrom Wanderer. So run Temple of Abandon, the Temple of Epiphany, and Temple of Mystery. All of these will allow you to help stack the top card in your deck. Kessig Wolf Run. When you need to get that final punch in the face, this'll do it. Alchemist Refuge. You have something non-land you want to play with Flash? Just pay 2 extra mana and it's all yours. Rogue's Passage. Commander damage is always important. That's why all my commander decks have Rogue's Passages. Fill out the rest of your deck based on how many of these lands you have with forests, islands, and mountains. I'd probably go heavier on the forests. Probably consider it like a 5-3-3 ratio or something. Anyways, that's going to be it for Commander Banter this week. Let me know what you think. Till next time, this is Dottie saying bye-bye.